Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm in the studio. It's live. You know what to do by now. Get involved in the chat and the comments. We want to hear from you. We're going to be talking about Cristiano Ronaldo. We're going to be talking about Victor Osimhen. We're going to be talking about Tammy Abraham because there's been some transfer links with those two Serie A strikers. So we'll be getting into all that and a couple of other bits and pieces as always. And as always, we need to hear from you. Let us know what you think about those two transfer targets and about Cristiano Ronaldo because we've all got an opinion on Ronaldo, haven't we? Ten Hag's got an opinion on Ronaldo as well, and it looks like those two have kind of made up. I'll get into all that anyway. First of all, let's have a look at some of the initial comments. People saying, Jay, hi, Jay. Morning, Jay, says Joey Jobo. Hi, Jay, says Max Pooler. Sammy says, likes. Yes, hit the likes. Kyle Ishmael says, good morning, Jay. The Urmston Strangler, which is always a name that worries me somewhat, says, look at that shine. Joykia Trot says, morning, Jay. Morning to everyone. Right, let's get into the latest installment of the Cristiano Ronaldo saga, because it does feel like it's a bit of a saga at the minute, at United. We saw some, not even saw, well, I saw, there was a video doing the rounds on social media. I think it was yesterday afternoon. So there was an account, and this has been picked up by the Mirror. I think I've got it, some stills from it. I saw it on an account called Ten Hag's Ball, or Ten Hag Ball, I should say. Ten Hag's Ball, sounds a bit rude. And then this was, I think it was from a TikTok, and it shows the sort of footage of where Ten Hag sort of seems to approach or speak to Ronnie on the bench against Spurs. Ronnie goes and stands in front of the dugout. He high-fives, or he shakes hands with Jadon Sancho when he comes off. He shakes hands with Casemiro when he comes off. And then he kind of makes his way down the touchline. And as we know, out the tunnel, down the tunnel, out the ground, back home. That's sort of how it panned out. And that's a video that's been doing the rounds. And it's been sort of explained as, you know, you can see here what happened after the Spurs game. We kind of knew that anyway, didn't we? We knew it. It's just interesting to see it actually being played out. It wasn't like there was a big row. There didn't seem to be any arguing. It just seems at one point like Ten Hag says something to him. I presume, from what we gather, it was, you know, do you want to come on? Or are you going to come on? Or are you going to warm up maybe? And Ronnie's sort of having none of it, or indicates he's not doing it or whatever. Goes down in front of the dugout. To be fair, he's, you know, the way he treats his teammates, he shakes hands with the subs coming off. It's not like he spat his dummy out with them. And then he walks off. Anyway, the latest story, or the one that was doing the rounds, I think yesterday, you probably saw it, but we'll give you a little update, is that he's returned to training with the Manchester United first team. Everyone's had it. I've got it here from the Evening News. And he just said, Cristiano Ronaldo has trained with the rest of the Manchester United first team squad for the first time since being exiled for refusing to come on as a substitute against Tottenham. That's slightly dramatic, isn't it? Exiled. He's not been sent to Corsica, or, you know, where was it they sent Napoleon? Was it Helena? I can't remember. I don't know. Anyway, he's not been exiled, has he, really? You know, he wasn't part of the Chelsea squad. And then I think he was meant to train with the under-21s, but I think he actually did some individual training on the Monday or whenever it was, or maybe late last week. So, yeah, a bit dramatic. But anyway, we know what's happened there. He was dropped from the squad. He's now back in the squad. He's back training. The pictures that we've seen, I know pictures don't tell you everything from training because players aren't as thick as some people would have you believe. They know when there's cameras on him. They're not going to sort of completely play up. But he looks like he's just getting on with it, and you'd expect him to be getting on with it. Hopefully now we can put this entire saga, because it has been a saga, behind us. Ronnie's back in training. Regardless of what you think Cristiano Ronaldo, regardless of whether you think he should start or, you know, whether he's lost his bit of his mojo and he's good enough for Manchester United, we don't have that many strikers. We need him. He's still a threat. He's still someone who can get you goals. And I think at least until January, you need Cristiano Ronaldo to be available. Otherwise, you're relying on an injured Anthony Martial, because he's been injured a lot. He's played 100 minutes of football so far this season, I think, which is just so deflating, isn't it? Marcus Rashford, who I love Marcus Rashford. Is he an out-and-out striker? Probably not. And then who else have you got? You're going to play Elanga down the middle? You're going to play Jadon Sancho down the middle? You're going to have Bruno Fernandes leading the line? There's not many options there for Ten Hag, so I think he definitely does need Cristiano Ronaldo to at least be available. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Get involved in the chat and the comments and let me know what you think about it, because it's quite an inflammatory topic, innit? Ronaldo. I think a lot of people get really angry about it, but one thing that struck me of late, and I'll get into some of the comments now, is this idea that, or the sort of general feeling that, from what I've seen on social media and from what I've seen in comments and stuff when we've done videos, and just for chatting to people, you know, because I do actually talk to people, you know, face to face or on the phone now and again. It's not just all social media. most of the vast majority of people I spoke to seem to be siding with Erik Ten Hag on this one. Seems like Ronnie's not quite got the support on this issue that perhaps he would have had if this was under Ralph Rangnick or maybe even Ole, or maybe going back a few years further, whatever. It just looks like people going, you know what? Erik Ten Hag's doing the right thing. He's handled it well. He's the manager. If Ronnie don't like it, tough. Do you know what I mean? Hit that like button. Hit the like button. We've got over 500 people watching. We haven't even got 100 likes. That is a disgrace. Santa Notch, morning, Jay. Do you know what? Love Santa Notch. Always great to see Notch in the chat. I'd actually get worried if I don't see him. Jacoya Trot says, feel like a ceasefire till January transfer window. He's been exiled and we've got a ceasefire. I love that. Adrian O'Sullivan says, these are the players that threw Mourinho under the bus. They'll do the same to Ole. That was a quote, that wasn't it, from Roy Keane. Roy Keane said that about the players. Michael Anthony says, morning, Jay. How you, bruv? Much love from Toronto. Morning, Michael, sorry. Thanks for the love and hope all is good. RWB. Gary says, good evening, Jay, from Yokohama. Thank you, brother. John Gallagher says, I'd rather Victor over Tammy. Both good options. Right, I'll get into that because... Oh, sorry, just one comment I want to read out. R Block says, I hope to see Zidane Iqbal and Garnacho having a chance. I reckon Zidane would take Fred's spot easily. Love Zidane Iqbal. I think he's got a very bright future ahead of him. Me and Joe were talking about this on the preview for the, who's it? We've got Sheriff's game. And we were talking about, the Sociedad game where we lost at Old Trafford. I think that sort of had an effect on Erik Ten Hag in terms of how many youngsters he could and would give a chance to in the Europa. Had we won that game, I think that we'd have seen more youngsters being given a chance against the likes of Ammonia and against the likes of Sheriff away. We have played Sheriff away, haven't we? Yeah. But I think because it was like we lost that game, then we're up against it to finish top of the group, and you want to finish top so you can avoid an extra 2 games. He wasn't able to give as many youngsters a chance, or he didn't feel like he was willing to give as many youngsters a chance. And I think that's a real shame, because I think if we'd have won that game, then we would have seen maybe the likes of Zidane Iqbal and Garnacho and maybe 1 or 2 others. I know we saw a cameo from Charlie McNeil. Maybe he'd have got more game time. So it was a little bit frustrating on that front. Right, we did a tweet earlier on. Go to it. Now, Manchester United have been linked with both Tammy Abraham and Victor Osimhen. Not that we're going to get both, but it feels like one or the other. And I'll get into both stories shortly. Now, we did a tweet about 30 minutes ago saying United have been linked with Victor Osimhen and Tammy Abraham. If you had a choice, which one? I should say which one, that's my spelling mistake. Are you taking at Old Trafford? Now, loads of people got involved in it, and it seems like there's been a pretty split. Eduardo saying Osimhen, Zenzo saying Ivan Toney. Lot of people, in fact, there's a lot of people saying Osimhen, actually, to be fair. I was saying split because I saw a couple of people saying Abraham, but actually they weren't. They were saying Osimhen over Abraham. Detroit alumni said on the Twitter, if Man United signs Tammy Abraham, we are a dead club. I'd rather promote McNeil. Emmanuel Dennis is better than Osimhen, though, says Mohamed Sarr. None, says Dammy. I would rather have Ivan Toney, says Culture Mix. Mohamed Sam also says Tammy, of course, but most people seem to be saying Osimhen. Let's get into the stats then, because, well, let's start with the stories, right? I'll start with the Tammy Abraham story, because this has kind of been bubbling around for a few weeks now, maybe a little bit longer. The idea that Manchester United are interested in Tammy Abraham. I think the Evening News have had it this morning that United have been linked with him, and this has come from Calcio Mercato, who've been banging this drum for quite a while now, saying that United and Tottenham are both looking at Tammy Abraham. So let's have a look at his stats, because we know what he did at Chelsea. I actually think, Joe makes this point all the time, Tammy Abraham at Chelsea did a decent job. He was a little bit unlucky, really, because it's just Thomas Tuchel obviously didn't fancy him for whatever reason, and just moved him on. So the last season he was at Chelsea, he didn't set the world alight. I mean, 12 goals in 32 games is hardly like, wow. But a lot of those appearances were substitute appearances. And at one point, he was their top scorer during that season. The season before, his numbers were a lot better. He got 15 goals in 34 Premier League games, 18 in total. And we know what he did in the Championship as well when he was at Bristol City a few years ago, and obviously at Villa. He scored a load of goals in the Championship for them, 25 in 37 appearances. So he did okay in England. He did well. He's now obviously gone to Serie A. His numbers this season aren't great. I think he's at 2 goals in Syria. I think if I'm getting that one right. Yeah, so 2 goals and 2 assists so far this season. So, it's not really big numbers, is it? Let's not kid ourselves. But on the whole, at Roma, he's had a good season. He's had a good spell. He's done well. And I think that, most people who've been watching him, and I've spoken to a couple of people, say they've been impressed with what he's done. Obviously, in Mourinho getting along. I think last season he scored 27 goals in all competitions, including 17 in Serie A. So he's obviously putting up decent numbers there. So United being linked with him kind of makes sense to me. He's got Premier League experience. He's still, how old is he? He's still relatively young, and he's not a young in terms of he's not an up and coming youngster. He's 25 though, so he's not at his peak. So you can understand why he has been linked with a move to Manchester United. I don't think he cost the earth as well. There's a poll in the chat as well. Get involved in the poll. I think I can never read the full. Is it 74% saying they'd have Victor Osimhen, 26% saying you'd have Tammy Abraham? So it looks like Victor Osimhen is the overwhelming favourite. I'll get into his numbers in a minute. But you can understand the link with Tammy Abraham. It makes sense to me because he ticks a lot of boxes. He's got Premier League experience and has done quite well in the Premier League. He's been at a big club before in England at Chelsea. Because sometimes you can buy a player who's got Premier League experience, and that experience has come at a smaller club. They come to a club like Manchester United and the shirt's too heavy for them. Do you remember when Alexis Sanchez was at Arsenal, that little club down in London, and he did really well? And then when he came to a big club, like United, it just didn't happen. He was a disaster. Because sometimes players can handle a big club. But yeah, he's got that experience. He's done well. He's gone to Italy. And I always respect players that go abroad and spend a few seasons abroad and then come back and have that experience. It's a bit of a risk. You don't, it cannot work out for you. There's a culture shift there, a culture change. But you've got to give these players credit. You see what Chris Smalling's doing over at Roma as well. He's doing really well. Who's the kid who's at Milan? Is it Tomori, who went from Chelsea to Milan? And a lot of them are ingratiating themselves with the culture and learning the lingo and all that stuff, which is always good to see. Because it's not easy to always, it's not easy, but a lot of players don't do that, but they're doing that as well, so that's great to see. So I get why we're linked with Tammy Abraham, even though from the poll that we've got at the minute, it doesn't seem like he's the top target. Rowan Brennan says Tammy is Jadon 2.0. R Block says I'd rather have Mitrovic than Tammy Abraham. I take it that Jadon 2.0 isn't a compliment. I'm guessing that's an insult. Correct me if I'm wrong. Get back in the chat and let me know if that is an insult. I mean, I don't think Jadon Sancho's done that well since he's come to United. I still think there's, he's only young and he's not been here that long. And we've seen glimpses this season. He scored 3 goals. So it's not like his career's dead. But I think he could do a little bit better. Ed C says, Osimhen gives me Diego Costa vibes, except not a complete psychopath. Winking emoji. Scott says, I'd prefer David or that Sesko lad. Yep, we've been linked with both of them, haven't we? Is it Jonathan David and Benjamin Sesko? Possibly. Let's get into Victor Osimhen then, because there's another story doing the rounds, which I'll explain to you, about Victor Osimhen. Basically, United have been linked with him, and Napoli have set an asking price of 100 million. This was in the Evening News. And it says that they're willing to sell him, but it's going to cost you 100 million to get him. Now, that doesn't surprise me, that, because they paid a lot of money for him. When they bought him for, I think it was a club record fee of 70 million euros going up to 80 million euros. And I think at the time, and I think he still is, the most expensive African transfer or a player from Africa ever. So he's gone there to Napoli, and he's done well. He's done, he reminds me a little bit, and I don't mean he's the same type of player, or he doesn't. I mean, obviously, doesn't look anything like him. He doesn't play exactly the same, but he gives me that sort of vibe like Mark Hughes, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Mark Hughes used to just score spectacular goals, stick his head in where he shouldn't have put his head in, stick his foot in where he shouldn't have done. Was never prolific, but would score goals, important goals, and was a sort of fans' favourite because of the type of goals he scored and because of the strength he showed and because of his fearlessness. There's a little bit of that around Victor Osimhen, and I know that he's a completely different player to Mark Hughes was. My point is, Victor Osimhen is kind of fearless. He will battle, he will fight, he will, try and stick his sort of face in that. He literally didn't he get booted in the head or something, or when he's wearing a mask at one point, was wearing it on that picture there because of an injury it picked up. Now, he can score goals, and he does score goals, but he's not like hitting 20-odd goals a season. I think he's only ever hit 20 goals in one season once, and that was in Belgium. So if you look at his numbers, if you look, I'm going to go through. I'll go through his numbers this season. I mean, he's doing well this season. He scored 1 goal in the Champions League in 2 appearances, 4 goals in Serie A in 7 appearances. So he's on course for big numbers there. But historically, I mean, last season he scored 18 goals in all competitions, decent. 14 in 27 in Serie A. The season before, 10 in 24 in Serie A. So these are decent numbers, aren't they? But he's not like mad numbers. It's not like this is a guy you think, maybe if you get him, he could give you 30 goals a season. And he's 23. So still on the sort of the younger side, isn't it? You think there he's got at least 8 years left in him at the very top. So, ticks a lot of boxes. 100 million. Is he worth 100 million quid? Should United be paying 100 million for someone like Victor Osimhen, who's not prolific, but is a very good player? Get involved in the comments and the chat. Now, from the sort of the poll, you obviously prefer him to Tammy Abraham. But does that mean you prefer him? Does that mean you want him? Let me know what you guys are thinking. Josh Dude says, got his face broke and still wanted to play. Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of thing, right, that fans love. Innit? You just love players like that who'll die for the shirt, stick their face in, stick their head in, stick their foot in, fearless, do anything to get the ball or get a goal. We had Carl Anker on the channel on Monday night. If you've not checked that out, check that podcast out after this one, obviously, after this show. He was raving about Victor Osimhen, and Carl does his own work. He watches a lot of football, and he was like, you know what? He's that type of player who will, he is fearless and will get you goals that he perhaps shouldn't get you because he'll stick his face in. But this is the sort of the caveat. He can pick up knocks because of that. He can stretch for that ball or stick his foot or his face in somewhere where he shouldn't and pick up an injury. And then when you spend 100 million quid on someone, you don't want him getting injured all the time. Not saying he's injured all the time, but you don't want him picking up unnecessary injuries. So that is something to think about. That is one side where you might go, is it worth that risk? Hit that like button. We've got almost 900 people watching. Not even 200 likes. Let's get to 200 likes, people. Come on. In fact, let's get to 300. Why are we setting the bar so low? 300 likes. If you're watching this, just hit the like button. I'll get into some of the chats in the comments as well. Sean Colbert says, I think 100 million is a lot, but I say he's worth like 60, 70 million. Not 100 million because he isn't a world-class player. See, that's the thing. Is he a world-class player? Ed T says, if Jack Grealish is worth 100 million, that price for Osimhen is a steal. Manchester Maverick says, sounds like Vidic 2.0. Guitarman84 says Lautaro. Now, Lautaro Martinez is another one we've been linked with. I had this, I think, on Monday's news. I was talking about him and saying that, United have been linked with him. Again, he's another player who's having a very good season in Serie A. I think he's got 6 goals in 11 appearances so far. Obviously, Inter Milan, a very big club. He's 25 years old. He's Argentinian. He's called Martinez. An Argentinian called Martinez. I'm there. I'm all about that because my favourite person in the world is an Argentinian called Martinez. However, he'd probably be, again, quite pricey, you'd think, to prize him away from Inter Milan. And also, when are you getting him? These are the questions because could you get Tam Abraham in January? Could you get Victor Osimhen in January? Do you need them in January if Cristiano Ronaldo is going in January? There was another sort of little aside to this Ronaldo story, and this was, I think this is in the news saying that Sporting wanted him, but they couldn't afford him. And I think that's the problem with a lot of clubs that want Cristiano Ronaldo. There's a lot of clubs out there I think would happily have Cristiano Ronaldo playing for him, but his price is his wages are too high. And also, it becomes the Ronaldo show. Understandably, it becomes the Ronaldo show when Cristiano Ronaldo signs for your club. And it's like, is it worth, do you get the reward from that risk now? Is he worth to you the 400 or 500k he's on a week? And also, has he tainted himself slightly with this stuff with Ten Hag? Has that put anyone off? Don't know. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Let us know what you think. Scott says, we all love Martinez. Stephen Holmes says, we're not buying anyone in January. Maria Ronaldo says, yes, British clubs use British players and prove so what they are. Sorry, I think I've got a bit, I don't know what that means. What about Patrick Schick? There was a story, actually, that when it comes to Patrick Schick, and I was talking about this lad yesterday, because this is the kid that absolutely tore it up in the Euros, didn't he? For Czech Republic, sorry, I didn't say Czechoslovakia. What is this, 1987? Yeah, he tore it up in the Euros. Apparently, Ralph Rangnick wanted him when he was at United. Now, I think with Ralph Rangnick, he wanted every attacker in the world. Do you remember when he listed a load of attackers? He said Diaz, he said Vlahovic, he said someone else, I can't remember. Oh, Alvarez, gone to say. We found out he wanted Schick, one or two others that I think Ralph Rangnick would have had anyone in January. And like a lot of the players that he mentioned or that we've been linked with are good players, and I get it. But were they ever going to happen? No. Because those Muppets, the Glazers, brought in a manager who not sat in a dugout for whatever it was, or he sat in a dugout 2 years in 10, two out of the last 10 years, and then refused to back him at all in January because he wasn't going to be the manager for long term. Then he was given this, part of the reason he was coming in was to be a consultant after he left, and then that didn't happen because I think Eric Ten Hag didn't want him to carry on consulting. It was just a complete shambles having Ralph Rangnick as our interim manager. The only good thing about it was the fact that in press conference he just said whatever was on his mind, and he wasn't afraid to call out the owners. Very refreshing. Yeah, Schick, good player, big numbers last season, 24 goals in 27 games in the Bundesliga for Bayer Leverkusen. Again, this season, some of these players have been linked with this season are having a slightly underwhelming season, at least in terms of numbers. Get involved in the chat and the comments because I haven't watched a lot of Patrick Schick, so I'm not going to pretend I have. But he's got 2 in 10 so far in the Bundesliga, 3 in 15. Those are the sorts of numbers where you go, it's not been a great season so far for him, has it? But we know what he's capable of. I said this the other day. I'm sorry to repeat myself. I'm always a bit wary, though, if we're looking at him because of what he did in the Euros. We did it with Podolski, didn't we? I think, wasn't he? Same thing. Czech Republic. Great game. Great performance in the Euros. And then came to United. Didn't work out. Yeah. So let us know what you think. Do you think Schick's the answer? Do you think Osimhen's the answer? Do you think Abraham's the answer? Do you think Lautaro Martinez is the answer? Do you think we're going to get anyone? Dunny 079 says Gakpo, Gakpo, Gakpo. Don't sit on the fence. Tell me what you're saying. And L says, Jay, Schick was ready to come. Deal in principle. Agreed for 42 million. Joel Glazer vetoed the move. Well, that's disconcerting, isn't it? I mean, I don't know. Would he have fitted in? Was he the answer? Schick, maybe, maybe not. But it seems a bit strange that if that's true and the deal was all set, why did we get to the stage where there's a deal set up, it's all ready to go, the price is agreed, and yet Joel Glazer's saying no? Why have we got that far down the line? Surely, if you're not going to sign off, you shouldn't get to the place where you agree everything. It just seems stupid, and anything with Joel Glazer involved just makes my blood boil. So Som Asrani says Tammy would be ideal. Ten Hag would be able to coach him similarly to what he did with Haller. Tammy gets more visibility, and it's not bad to have some English talent in the squad. Huge fan of Vlahovic too. Yeah, I mean, there's someone who's actually for Tammy Abraham. Richard Adji says, need a striker that's coming into his peak. Tammy Abraham or Ivan Toney. Ivan Toney, I think, and Tammy Abraham, similar age. I think Ivan Toney's 26, is he? He's another one who we've been linked with. Having a very good season at Brentford. Had a very good season last season. Is a player who ticks a lot of boxes. He's good on he can lead the line. He scores goals, obviously. Can take a set piece. He's good with free kicks and with penalties. And he's had a very good career progression. He's gone through the entire football pyramid. And he's now on the fringes of the England squad. And you'd think would be gettable without breaking the bank. I think he'd certainly been cheaper than Victor Osimhen. Can he come to United, though? Can Ivan Toney come to United and perform? I mentioned earlier how sometimes a player who is very good at a smaller club, even in the Premier League, can come to Manchester United and the shirt can be quite heavy for them. Do you think that Ivan Toney can come to Manchester United and do a job? Let me know what you think. Get involved in the comments. Cedric Levy says, Ivan Toney for me all day, every day. Stephen Holmes says, Brentford would probably want like 60 million to 80 million for Toney, though. Hit that like button. There's over almost 1,000 people watching, over 230 likes. Let's get to 300 likes. Maria Ronaldo says, in fact, it looks like Rashford has to work no matter what. Just wondering why. I think it's the options that we've got. Abna Bidu King Eric says, what do you guys think of Benjamin Sesko? I like the kid. Get involved in the chat and let us know what you think about him. Manchester Maverick says, Toney is a good player, but can't see Brentford letting him go in January. He would have to hand in a transfer request. Does he have to do what? Do you know what? What was it that Anthony refused to play, didn't he, at Ajax? And didn't Martinez threaten people? Didn't he go in there and said, he basically told them he was leaving. They said, no, you're not. And he said, well, I am. And then he started calling them all names, threatened him, maybe tossed over a few tables. And then they said, all right, Lissandro, you can go to Manchester United. Calm down. No need for that. You know, put the CEO down. Let him go let go of his neck. And you can get your move. Yeah, I think he said you're only here because we got rid of Omars or something, didn't he, to the CEO, and then they let him go. Not the CEO, sorry, the director of football. Stu says, sorry I'm late, Jay. Can you forgive me? Of course I can, son. It's all about forgiveness on this channel. Ben Sorville says, Tony too old to spend that much money on. For free, cheap, yes, 200%. Gonna wrap it up there. Thanks to everyone who got involved in the chat and the comments. It's been a really good discussion. Make sure as well, you're still hitting like and you subscribe. Can we put a subscribe link in the chat, please? Mr. Bagley. On the poll we've done, who would you have, Abraham or Osimhen? We've got 74% Osimhen, 26% Abraham. Who knows? Maybe the club will listen to you. Do you remember when we were going to get Marko Arnautovic? And United fans went, don't think so. And the club actually went, we're not going to get him anymore because the fans have kicked off. That worries me slightly. I'm not going to lie. I'm a United fan, but I don't think I should be making transfer decisions as Manchester United Football Club. I think you have to have a structure and a system in place that doesn't go, well, what's everyone tweeting? But I'm glad we didn't get him. Not just because I don't think he's the right man for the job in terms of football. I don't like some of the things that he's been involved in off the field. The poll's finished. Would you sign Abraham or Osimhen? 74% Osimhen, 26% Abraham. So, or as Penny Mordaunt would say, 27% Abraham, 82% Osimhen, if everyone saw that tweet, I know what I'm on about. Yeah, listen, the fans like Osimhen. I like him. He's a good player. 100 million, that's the price tag. Will Manchester United pay that? We'll be able to afford it. We can always afford it. We've got enough money for dividends. We've got enough money for transfers. Don't give me that tosh. But will they pay it? We'll have to wait and see. Make sure you're hitting the subscribe button. There's a subscribe link in the chat. Also, we'll be back later on. You've got